Hey, what's going on? So I'm going to walk through what I do from my beard to a handlebar mustache. Now I've been growing this for about 4 months. I'm definitely not an expert, but this is how I make this into a handlebar mustache. So one of the things I use is Can You Handlebar Wisdom Dry Oil Beard Balm. So this is very similar to a beard oil. You're going to take a little bit, scratch your thumb in there. You're going to put it together, rub your hands, put it all into the beard, and it moisturizes the skin, helps keep it healthy, and then it also helps with a little bit of shaping. So this is what it is. Smells amazing. This one has a outdoorsy smell. I'm just in love with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thumb, scrape it through, get a little bit on there like that, kind of rub it in my hands, work it in. So I've got this beard oil brush from Can You Handlebar. Love these guys. Comes in its own crush-proof can. You're going to take this and just kind of run it through. This helps spread it. It helps promote the oils or the spreading of the oils throughout the hair, which is really good for your beard. Looking good. Now I'm going to move on to the waxing. So one of the first things I do is I go through and I kind of start to comb things out and I get the mustache kind of where I want it. One of the things you have to be careful of is when you're doing the mustache, and I've seen some questions about trimming. I don't trim my mustache. About once every 2 weeks I get my hair cut, and when I do, I ask the lady to go through and just kind of even things up. I don't want to trim anything. I'm trying to grow a beard for an entire year. I've never grown one. This is the first time I've ever had a handlebar mustache. But what I've learned over the last 4 months is you have to be careful of the cheek hair through here. What I have found is as I'm putting the wax in, if I get too much cheek hair, it actually takes the handlebar and pulls it back because the cheek hair is a little bit shorter. And what I really want is just kind of that tips at the end. Today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do a little curl and I'm going to twist it in there and get it in like that. So usually what I do is I go through, I start to separate out, kind of get that longer hair off to the side, makes it easier to apply the wax. Kind of get everything out of the way. Double checking underneath, because what I have found is kind of under here, if I get too much on one side, too much on the other, one side's thicker, one side's thinner. So now that I've kind of got a shape in it, and the dry oil helps to kind of to do that, a little bit of the shaping, I'm going to go get the primary wax first. So with the wax, it has to be pliable. And the best way to do that is to warm it up. You can go to canyouhandlebar.com. They have a primary and secondary. The primary I use mostly for shaping. The secondary I'll put in. It's much thicker. If you don't warm the wax and make it pliable, generally what will happen is as you're putting it in, you're going to pull a bunch of hair out. So it's got to be relatively soft. You don't want liquidy. Liquidy is bad. So if you go to handlebar.com, they've got they've got a wonderful website. There's lots of tips, tricks, how to. They'll answer any questions. And one of the things they talk about is the different ways you can heat up your mustache wax. So this is important. You can heat it up with hot water. Take the can itself, hold it underneath hot water until it becomes soft and pliable. You can use a hair dryer. What I do is I take my coffee pot. On top of the coffee pot, I put one folded paper towel, put the primary on top of there. I take the secondary, put it on the other side, run through a fresh pot of just water, start it, let it go, and after about 20 minutes, it's relatively soft. And they recommend that you scrape out about a grain of rice. Now, that's a good starting point for me. I use a little bit more, so I'll be using a lot more than a grain of rice. Let me go get that wax, and I'll show you how I shape up my handlebar mustache. So this is my primary handlebar mustache wax from Can You Handlebar. As you can see, I've used quite a lot. I don't know if you can see this very well, but it is nice and soft. Kind of comes off right in the finger. As far as pliable, it should just go right between the fingers. You shouldn't have anything mushy in there. So what I generally do, I'll take my thumb, I go through, scratch out some. I probably got about 2 times the amount that you would normally do. Put it in my fingers, and then what I do is I go through and I drag it through softly on one side of my mustache. One of the tips that they have on their website for their mustache wax is you want it soft, you want to put it in there, get it mixed in, and then you go through and you comb it, because if you wait too long, the wax will dry out. Once it starts to dry out, then every time you kind of comb it, it's chunks of the wax, well, not really chunks, the wax will kind of break down and you'll lose some of that hold that it has. Now they recommend one hand, but typically what I'll do is I'll use 2. Wish I had more light in here. Now I know my problem areas when I'm making my handlebar mustache. That's generally right in here is where I have the issues. So I'll get a little more wax in there. Once I start to get a good amount of wax in there, sorry, I'm tugging on my lip, is I'll do a little twist. Look underneath, see how much I got. Then I start in on the other side. Smells amazing as well. Trouble area right here. So I'm trying to use the mirror and look in the camera at the same time. So one of the things I look for when I'm doing mine, spreading everything in there pretty nicely, but I also look underneath to see how much of the hair I've got next to the corner of my mouth. Looks like I've got an even amount. So now I have 2 brushes right now. There are specialty mustache brushes, so I'm probably going to get one here in the future. But what I do is I comb everything down and then kind of go through, making sure that the wax is spread evenly before it starts to set. Now, here's something I've learned to do myself, is sliding my hand underneath to kind of hold that cheek hair out of the way. I know that probably looks kind of weird. So lastly, with this can of primary wax, just a little bit, both hands. And then generally I wash my hands real quick before I start with the secondary wax. Alrighty, so I've already put the primary wax in, did a little twist out at the ends. And I've talked about in some of my Instagram posts where I tug. And so what I do is I slide my hands behind like this, and I'll just grab and kind of tug. And what that does throughout the day is any little bit of wax I still have there, I spread it out to the ends, and then I'll take my comb through and just kind of gently go through. I don't want to yank. So now I'm ready to move on to using the secondary wax. This wax is a thicker wax. You definitely want this to be pliable. I just took it off of the top of my coffee pot, and it's very, very soft. So I'm gonna scrape a little bit and basically do just like I did with the primary wax. You wanna get that in there between your thumb and your first finger. And I use the same technique. I go through and just kind of gently pull it through. You do not want to yank, let me tell you that. So this secondary wax, in my opinion, as I've been using it, this is what gives you that hold that all day. So this is nice and pliable. I'll get those little chunks when I run the comb through. And I do the other side. You kind of want to work a little fast, not super fast, but if this starts to cool, it'll harden a little bit, and once it's hard, it's not as easy to get through your fingers. Oh, there's that little trouble area, right in there. Run both hands through kind of like this. Now I'm going to use a different comb this time. Same technique. Down. Wipe the comb off. You get a little bit of wax and it's not too bad. Now that I've got that wax in there, and I kind of got it combed, got some of those cheek hairs out of the way, I do the little twist out at the ends. I know it's kind of hard to see, I'm sorry about the light. But then, once I have the twist the way I want, start to bend it up and over. Kind of pushing like this. So I've named my mustache Elliot Norris, kind of the baby of Chuck Norris and Sam Elliott. And it's kind of funny because it's so thick is why I did it, and I've been drinking that night anyways. But this side is the Elliott side of the family, this is the Norris side. Elliott, thicker. And this side, Chuck Norris does whatever it wants. Give it a little twist. There we go. We'll go on the north side. See, this side is right now, currently, is the side I'm curling over. This is kind of what I prefer to do for the most part, kind of a traditional. It's just having it kind of go back. I wouldn't mind it coming up a little bit, but I'm going to make it a little thinner for today. So try to get in the light there so you can kind of see it. This side likes to fold back. This side likes to stand up tall. And that basically is my routine. Putting it through, and now throughout the day, I'll kind of run a comb through it. You got to give it a little bit of time to set before it kind of takes that hold for the rest of the day. But you can already see it's starting to stiffen up. But that's how I make my handlebar mustache. Hopefully something I did might give you an idea of how you can take your mustache. Anyways, thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later. All right, bye-bye. Who are you?